Hello and welcome to Lost Love Chronicles.
Dear listeners, before we get started, drop a quick hi in the comments and let us know where you're tuning in from. Also, if you have any suggestions for us to make the channel better, please let us know. Now let's start with the story. My wife filmed me having a PTSD flashback, then sent it to CPS and told them I was too violent to take care of our kids. When I found out, I begged her mother for help. She just laughed and said, "We've got all the proof we need now." That's when it hit me. I was alone. I knew what I had to do, and I knew it wasn't going to be pretty. When I returned home from my 18-month deployment in Afghanistan, I had one thing keeping me going: the thought of my kids still loving me. I used to watch those videos, soldiers coming home, their children running into their arms, screaming "Daddy," like the world was whole again. Watching those clips kept me alive while I watched my friends get shot dead. But when I walked in the door, it wasn't like that. My kids didn't even hug me. They didn't even look up from their iPads. "Hey," one of them mumbled, eyes locked on the screen. I think it was Temple Run. Temple Run. More important than their dad coming home from a war zone. My heart didn't just sink, it cracked wide open. That's when I heard a sound from the stairs, a shift, a creak, a crouch. Then came my in-laws. Martin, my father-in-law, said, arms open wide. He pulled me into a hug before I could even react. "We've been waiting for this moment for so long," my mother-in-law added, wrapping her arms around me too. That warmed something inside me. I hugged them back, slow, still disoriented. Then Monica appeared. "Hey," she said softly, giving me a light hug. I tensed up immediately. Something was off. I glanced around. That's when I saw it. Empty moving boxes stacked near the wall, a couple of half-zipped suitcases. I didn't say anything, just looked. But they noticed. "Monica was struggling to take care of everything while you abandoned your family," my mother-in-law said, placing heavy emphasis on abandoned, like it was some harmless joke. But it didn't feel like a joke. It felt real. I froze. Abandoned? Monica and I had talked about this 1,000 times before I left. She insisted I go. Said it would be good. Said we'd be fine. I remembered what some of the other soldiers told me. Things will feel off that first week. Everything will feel wrong. You'll be raw. You'll be confused. So I shoved the pain down and told myself, give it time. Just give it time. That night, I cooked dinner. My famous roast chicken, rosemary garlic butter, creamy mashed potatoes. Before I left, my kids would beg for it. "Please, Dad. Again tomorrow," they used to shout. Now, nothing. Not even a thanks, Dad. We ate in silence. Logan, my youngest, he's 5, dropped his plate on the floor. My system kicked in. Before I could even think, I stood up, dropped to the floor, slid under the table. 5, 4, 3, I whispered. In the war, that countdown meant survival. It meant I had 5 seconds to brace myself. 2, Dad. I heard faintly. 1, nothing happened. No bomb. No scream. No dust. No blood. That's when I realized. I was back home. I took a deep breath and sat back down at the table. My legs were still shaking, my heart racing. I looked around, hoping, just hoping, for a hand on my shoulder, a reassuring voice, something human. Instead, my wife stared at me like I was a monster. Her eyes were wide, her jaw slightly open, like she was afraid. Across the room, her mother was already on her phone, fingers tapping furiously like she was live tweeting a crime scene. I didn't know it then. I had no idea they'd been filming me the whole time. "Erica," I called gently. "Logan." But before I could even get up and apologize, before I could explain, my children were whisked away like I didn't exist. Like I was something they needed to be protected from. The next few months were brutal. Monica barely spoke to me. Her distance wasn't just cold, it was calculated. Our home wasn't a home anymore. It was a trap. And my kids, they wouldn't look at me, wouldn't talk to me, wouldn't even sit in the same room. The only thing left for me was the shadow that followed me from the war, PTSD, the nightmares, the panic, the spiraling doubt. One morning, I woke up to a knock at the door. Bam, bam, bam. I rubbed the sleep from my eyes and opened it, still groggy. A woman stood there, crisp blazer, badge around her neck. "Mr. Holloway," she asked. "I'm from Child Protective Services." My blood turned to ice. "We've received concerning reports about erratic behavior around your children," she said, flipping through her tablet. Then she showed me something. Something I still see in my nightmares. Right there on her phone was a video compilation of me, of my PTSD flashbacks. Clips, cuts, angles, all taken out of context. One showed me yelling in my sleep. Another had me crouching behind a couch. Another looked like I was throwing something, probably just a pillow. Edited, cropped, framed. They made me look unstable, violent. I grabbed the door frame to stop myself from collapsing. And that's when Monica walked up behind me. I turned, desperate. "Monica, please." She cut me off. "I think it's best if you stay somewhere else for a while, for the children's safety. Her voice was cold, detached. Behind her, her parents stood like guards at a palace gate. Her mother held up her phone again, still filming. I knew then, if I stayed, if I reacted, they'd twist it into more evidence. More proof that I was the danger. So I didn't fight. I walked out of my own home with nothing but a trash bag of dirty clothes and a phone charger. 20%. That's all I'd kept from my deployment salary. The rest? Sent to my family. Sent to them. But when I checked my bank account, there were only $35. I texted Monica. Her response was instant. Investment opportunities. Your parents needed it more than we did. I stared at the screen, tears blurring my vision. That was it. That was all she had to say. My days became a blur of depression. Sleeping in my truck. Showering at the gym. Eating whatever the church was giving away that day. Then one night, sitting in a Taco Bell, trying not to cry into a half-eaten burrito, I saw someone. Jake. I called out. He turned. Martin. We'd served together. Survived an ambush together. He walked up fast. Brother, what the hell happened to you? I told him everything. When I finished, his jaw was locked tight. Those videos, he said. Were they recording you without consent? I nodded. His expression changed. He smirked, but it wasn't amusement. It was fury. You know that's illegal in this state. For the first time since I came home, I smiled back. Jake got to work. For free. Fueled by nothing but pure rage and brotherhood. Within a day, he found something. I need you to check your iPad, he told me. See if there's anything still syncing. I hadn't thought of that. I opened it up, dug through it. Then I saw it, an old folder. One I'd deleted, but still connected to Monica's iCloud account. I opened it, and what I saw made my stomach turn. Video after video. Monica coaching the kids. Her voice was calm, casual even, like she was talking about the weather. Remember, she said, if anyone asks, you don't feel safe with Daddy. In the background of nearly every clip, I saw him. Bryce, her CrossFit gym friend. The guy I'd caught staring at her more than once. The one who always seemed to linger too long after a class. Now there he was, rubbing her shoulders, leaning against the kitchen counter while she coached my children on how to lie about me. I felt sick. I need full custody, I muttered, my voice hoarse. My hands trembled as I scrolled through the folder, each file like a punch to the gut. There were over 200 videos, each one neatly dated, organized by month. The earliest was from 6 months ago, right when Monica started getting cold. I tapped on one from 3 months back. The screen lit up. Erica was sitting in Monica's lap. Bryce leaned against the counter, arms folded like this was some casual planning session. What do you say when the judge asks about Daddy? Monica asked, her voice syrupy sweet. That he scares me. Erica replied, her tone flat and rehearsed. Good girl, Monica cooed. And what else? That he yells really loud and throws things. Bryce chuckled and stepped forward, ruffling Erica's hair like she was a puppy. Maybe add that you cry when you see him, he said with a smirk. Judges eat that stuff up. My hand shook so badly, I nearly dropped the iPad. Jake reached across the table and grabbed it from me. His eyes darkened as he watched. We sat in that grimy Taco Bell booth for 3 hours, combing through each clip. Video after video. Monica drilling the kids. Bryce always there, offering suggestions. Stroking her hair. Touching her back. Jake slammed the iPad down. We need to file for emergency custody immediately. He was already opening his laptop. This is textbook parental alienation. No judge will ignore this. But the next morning, things didn't go the way we expected. Monica's parents had money, and they brought in Robbie Patterson, one of the most expensive family lawyers in the state. He walked into the courtroom in a charcoal gray suit that probably cost more than my entire truck. Your Honor, Patterson said smoothly, given Mr. Holloway's documented PTSD and the concerning videos my client has provided, we request a full psychological evaluation before any custody modifications are considered. The judge glanced down at the paperwork, barely reacting. That seems reasonable. We'll schedule the hearing for 8 weeks from now, pending Dr. Leo's evaluation. 8 weeks. That meant 2 more months of Monica whispering lies into my children's ears. Jake stood up. Your Honor, the coaching videos show immediate psychological harm. The children are being manipulated. Patterson raised a hand dismissively, not even looking up. Those videos are taken out of context. He hadn't even watched them. I wanted to scream, but I stayed quiet. That's what they wanted, to provoke me. Dr. Leo's office smelled like expensive leather and something old and chemical. Every wall was covered in framed certificates, degrees, awards. Behind his desk sat a thick man with a deliberate smile. His voice was calm, too calm. Tell me about your deployment, he said, folding his hands. So I did. I kept my tone measured, my breath slow. Any history of trauma before the military? I nodded. My father. He was not kind. I see. He scribbled something. Tell me about your marriage. I swallowed. It was okay for a long time. Then she changed. It all changed. He leaned back, tapping his pen. I tried to keep my voice from cracking, to stay composed, to prove I was not what they painted me to be. Then something caught my eye. A photo on his bookshelf. There he was. Dr. Leo, standing in tennis whites next to Cynthia, my mother-in-law, smiling at what looked like a country club event. I squinted at the photo on the bookshelf. You know my mother-in-law? I asked carefully, keeping my voice steady. He glanced over and smiled, almost proudly. Oh yes. Cynthia and I play doubles every Sunday. Wonderful woman. My stomach dropped. Of course. But I didn't react. I didn't blink. I knew that any complaint, any protest, would only make me look paranoid. So I sat back and answered every question he asked. Calm. Measured. Like a man being judged by someone who already had the verdict in hand. 2 weeks later, the supervised visits began. 2 hours every Saturday, in a sterile visitation center that smelled like disinfectant and loneliness. Monica would arrive with the kids. Every time, she made a show of hugging them tight in the lobby. Remember, she'd whisper, loud enough for me and the supervisor to hear, if Daddy tries to take you away forever, just scream for help. Logan would already be sniffling before she even walked out the door. I don't want Daddy to take me away, he'd cry, clutching the sleeves of the supervisor. I want to stay with Mommy. And I crouched down, holding my hands out. Hey, it's okay. I'm not taking you anywhere. I promise. We're just going to play some games, all right? But the damage was already done. Every visit started in tears. Every visit ended with Erica asking, when can we go home? They didn't call it home when I was there. I started noticing changes in Erica. Designer clothes. A gold bracelet that looked way too expensive for a 10-year-old. A brand new iPhone. She'd had a basic phone before I deployed. I asked her once, trying to keep it light. Hey, where'd all this come from? She shrugged. Bryce buys me stuff. That's nice of him, I said, jaw tight. Does Bryce live with you now? Sometimes. He and Mommy share a room. I tried not to react. Tried to nod like it was no big deal. But inside I was shaking. Jake started digging, trying to get school records, medical files, anything that could help show what was happening to my kids. But every request hit a wall. The school needed signatures from both parents. The doctor's office suddenly couldn't locate the files. Even Mrs. Bell, their teacher, who used to wave and smile whenever I showed up, now avoided eye contact when I waited outside. Then Jake's investigator found something. Bryce Morgan had a record. 2 restraining orders. Both from ex-girlfriends. Both had children. Fraud conviction 5 years ago, identity theft, credit card scams. We were ready to bring it to court. We had everything lined up. But in the hearing, Patterson shut it down like it was nothing. Your Honor, he said smoothly, this is irrelevant character assassination. Mr. Morgan is not a party to this custody matter. The judge didn't even hesitate. Sustained. Let's focus on the parents, counselor. Meanwhile, Monica was busy online, posting filtered photos of herself looking tired but beautiful. Captions like being a single mom is the hardest job in the world and doing it all alone, but doing it for them. Her friends flooded the comments with heart emojis, virtual hugs. You're amazing. Stay strong, mama. No one knew I was still sending 60% of my security guard pay. No one knew the garnishments left me with barely enough for gas or food. Then Raymond, her father, showed up at my workplace. I was at the front desk, checking badges, when he walked in wearing a designer suit and smugness like cologne. He went straight to the receptionist, loud enough for everyone in the lobby to hear. Is your supervisor available? He asked, voice polite but firm. I have concerns about one of your security guards. A potentially dangerous veteran situation. People turned and stared. An hour later, I got called into the back office. My supervisor sat me down. Martin, he said, trying to sound sympathetic, I'm moving you to night shift. Less interaction with the public. Sir, I said, leaning forward. He's lying. I've never. He raised a hand. I'm not saying you did anything wrong, but we can't have complaints. Night shift starts Monday, my supervisor had said. That sentence echoed in my head like a door slamming shut. Night shift meant no mornings outside the school. No waving to my kids from across the street. No last glimpses of their backpacks bouncing as they ran into class. My world shrank. Now, it was just darkness, flickering fluorescence, and the hum of empty buildings. Then, during one of the supervised Saturday visits, something happened. Logan climbed onto my lap while Erica sat at the table, quietly coloring a unicorn. He had 2 toy cars clutched in his little hands, rolling them over my knees like I was part of a racetrack. Then he leaned in, his voice barely audible. Daddy, Bryce hits Mommy when he's angry. I froze. My entire body tensed like a wire-pulled taut. The supervisor looked up sharply from her clipboard. What did you say, buddy? She asked. Logan's eyes went wide, panicked. Nothing, he said quickly. I'm not supposed to tell. Mommy said never tell anyone. I forced my voice low, steady, even as rage boiled in my chest. It's okay, I said softly, brushing his hair back. You can tell Daddy anything. But Logan just shook his head, fast, frantic, and went back to playing with his cars, as if the words had never left his mouth. The supervisor jotted something down. I saw her hand move across the page. Another note. Another line in a file I had no control over. Meanwhile, Jake kept digging. Then came the financial bombs. Credit cards in my name, accounts I'd never opened. Over $30,000 in debt. Charges at stores I'd never heard of, dinners at restaurants I'd never eaten at. All while I was overseas. The credit card company told me I'd have to file police reports and prove it was fraud. But doing that would mean pointing the finger at Monica. And I knew Patterson would twist that into erratic behavior. Aggression. Paranoia. All while 60% of my security job wages were being garnished. When I tried to access our joint savings to pay Jake's investigator, I got a system error. Frozen. Monica had claimed I was hiding assets, moving money to avoid support. The irony made me want to scream. I was living in my truck, and she was telling the court I was hiding wealth. Then Jake's investigator struck gold. He'd been watching Monica's gym, just routine surveillance. Then, one morning, he got footage. Security camera footage from 3 months ago, 2 full months before I even came home. Monica, Bryce, Cynthia, Raymond, all seated at the gym's juice bar. Papers spread out on the table. No audio, but the body language told the story. Cynthia pointing at the documents. Bryce nodding. Monica looked uncertain, nervous. Then Raymond reached out, rested a hand on her shoulder. That was the moment she nodded. Jake watched it with me, jaw tight. They planned this whole thing, he said, his voice flat. Before you even got back. It made me sick. But nothing compared to what happened in the pre-trial hearing. Cynthia took the stand. She held up photos of me at the shooting range. This proves his violent tendencies, she claimed. It's required training for my job, I said, trying to stay composed. But Patterson stood, smooth as ever. It shows a comfort with weapons that concerns my client. The judge barely blinked. I'm ordering anger management classes, he said, before any custody considerations. 16 weeks. Another 4 months. Another 4 months of Monica whispering poison into my children's ears. Then, finally, someone broke. Mrs. Bell, Erica's teacher. She reached out to Jake's office. Not officially. She called from her personal phone. I can't testify without a court order, she said. But Erica's failing 3 classes. She used to be a straight A student. She hesitated. And the things she writes in her journal. She trailed off. She draws her family, but her dad is always scribbled out in black. Then came the next crack in the wall, Dr. Patterson, the children's therapist. She called Jake directly. Her voice shook. I could lose my license for this, she said. But those kids, they're being severely damaged. The coaching is obvious. She continued, quietly. Logan has started wetting the bed. Erica shows signs of severe anxiety. But my reports keep getting edited before they reach the court. We tried to get her testimony admitted. But to do that, we needed a court order. Another motion. Another delay. Then came the deposition. Monica sat stiffly across from Jake, Patterson beside her. A court reporter to her right, typing every word. Jake was careful, calm, methodical. He walked her through the timeline. Then he asked about the CPS visit. Jake sat calmly across from Monica in the deposition, his voice steady. You said you were shocked by the videos they showed you. Monica nodded. Yes, completely shocked. Jake leaned forward slightly. But you knew about them before CPS arrived. No, she started, then stopped. Her eyes flickered. Her voice faltered. I knew Raymond was concerned, but... Objection. Patterson cut in immediately, mischaracterizes the testimony. But the damage was done. Too late. The court reporter had typed every single word. I saw the shift in Jake's eyes. He didn't say it out loud, but I knew this was something. Then Bryce started picking up the kids from school. The restraining order kept me 500 feet away, but I still came sometimes, watching from across the street. I'd see him walking out, smiling, ruffling Logan's hair like he'd earned it, carrying Erica's backpack like some doting stepdad. Other parents waved at him, smiling, friendly. They had no idea who he really was. No idea he had 2 restraining orders for domestic violence. My accounts froze next. Monica claimed I was hiding deployment money, moving assets offshore. Jake stepped in, piecing together everything, bank transfers, military pay stubs, wire receipts. He showed how every cent had gone to Raymond's failed restaurant venture. Still, the freeze remained pending investigation. How much more can they take? I asked Jake one night. We were sitting in his office, surrounded by boxes of files, folders, legal pads with scribbled notes. Jake leaned back, exhaling through his nose. We're close, he said. The emergency hearing is next week. The judge will have to watch the coaching videos. All of them. Unedited. The emergency hearing was supposed to be routine. Another stall tactic. But Jake had other plans. He'd sync the coaching videos with a detailed timeline, showing exactly how everything escalated. Bryce's growing presence, the changes in the kids' behavior, the planning, the manipulation. Your Honor, Jake said, standing tall in the courtroom. I'd like to play Exhibit 47. The courtroom lights dimmed as the screen lit up. Video. Monica and Cynthia at the kitchen table. Bryce, blurred in the background, leaning against the counter. Cynthia slid an envelope across the table. This will guarantee you get full custody, Cynthia said, clear as day. Your father and I will handle the legal fees. Once you have sole custody, you and Bryce can sell the house. Start fresh. Monica took the envelope and peeked inside. Mom, she whispered. Asterisk, this is exactly what you need to secure your future. And the children's future. Without him, the judge leaned forward. Patterson jumped up. Objection. This video is heavily edited. Possibly deep-faked. Jake didn't flinch. He turned to his expert witness, a digital forensic specialist who'd spent an hour testifying about metadata, compression patterns, time codes, and chain of custody. There's no way these videos were fabricated, the expert had said. They're authentic. Then came the breaking point. Video after video played. Erica sobbing as Monica told her daddy is dangerous. Logan being coached, told to say he was scared. Bryce, constantly in the background, whispering lines to Monica, rehearsing with the kids, suggesting phrases, specific accusations. 6 months. Over 200 videos. Systematic alienation. Halfway through, Monica broke. Not the polished tears she posted on social media. These were real. Ugly. She shook. I want to address the court, she blurted. Patterson reached for her. Monica, I strongly advise. No. She pulled her arm away. I can't do this anymore. The entire courtroom went silent. She stood up slowly, voice cracking. They made me do it. Tears rolled down her face. My parents. They said if I didn't go along with it, they'd ruin me. They'd take everything. Make sure I never saw my kids again. She looked down, then back at the judge. They had Bryce ready. Had the whole plan. I just wanted Martin to come home. I never wanted any of this. Raymond stood abruptly. She's lying. She's unstable. The judge's gavel slammed. Sit down, Mr. Turner. Monica's voice grew stronger as she kept speaking, trembling, but steady. They threatened me, manipulated me, controlled every part of my life. Every decision. She pointed across the courtroom. They saw Martin as beneath them, an obstacle, and they waited for his deployment to strike. She sobbed, her hands shaking. Bryce was their idea. Someone they could control. Someone who'd do what they wanted. Her voice fell to a whisper. But he's violent. He's hurt me. Hurt the kids. And I let it happen. Because I was more scared of my parents than anything else. The judge had heard enough. Based on the evidence presented, he said, voice firm, I'm granting immediate temporary custody to Mr. Holloway. Mrs. Holloway will have supervised visits only, pending further evaluation. Mr. and Mrs. Turner are barred from any contact with the minor children pending investigation. Cynthia screamed. Raymond stood up, red-faced, and shouted, We'll sue every damn one of you. Patterson tried to keep control, raising his voice, Your Honor, please. But the courtroom was chaos. Security moved in. And Bryce? He was already gone. Slipped out sometime during Monica's testimony. Cowered probably halfway to state lines by the time the ruling came down. Jake's investigator confirmed it later. Bryce had fled to avoid a fraud warrant that was issued within hours. I picked up my kids that afternoon. Really picked them up. No supervisor watching. No time limits. Logan launched into my arms so hard he knocked the wind out of me. Daddy, he cried. He wrapped his arms around my neck, and I held him like I was never letting go again. Erica stood by the car. She looked older somehow, like the last 6 months had aged her. Then she ran to me, burying her face in my chest. She cried. Not the quiet tears she used to hide, but big, gasping sobs that tore right through me. I'm sorry, Daddy, she whispered. I didn't mean those things I said. I kissed the top of her head. I know, baby, I said. I know. Monica entered intensive therapy the next week. Real therapy. Not the court-mandated kind. Not the checkbox variety. She said she needed to unlearn a lifetime of her parents' control. The kids started seeing Dr. Patterson again, this time with no one censoring her notes, no one editing her reports. Cynthia and Raymond lawyered up again, new team, high-end. But their support system was crumbling fast. Turns out fraud, conspiracy, and tampering with witnesses doesn't sit well with country club donors. Their friends distanced themselves. The charges kept piling up. To pay legal fees, they mortgaged their home, sold the lake house, drained their retirement accounts. 6 months later, We were back in court. Final custody hearing. Monica sat across from me, but she didn't look like the woman who had betrayed me. She looked lighter somehow, clearer. Your Honor, she said. Her voice was steady, but softer than before. I support Martin having primary custody. I'm not ready. I need time to work on myself, to be the mother my children deserve. And I know Martin will take care of them while I do that. No games. No performance. Just truth. The judge nodded. Primary custody to Mr. Holloway. Supervised visits for Mrs. Holloway, with a path toward unsupervised as therapy progresses. Cynthia and Raymond's trial was set for the following month, but they'd already lost what mattered to them most. The money, the image, the control. I drove home with the kids, our home. Logan talked the whole way back, telling me about school like he was unloading months of silence. Erica sat beside me, holding up her latest report card, proud smile on her face. Her grades were climbing again. That night, I cooked roast chicken, my roast chicken. Rosemary garlic butter, mashed potatoes. Logan helped in the kitchen, mashing with way too much enthusiasm. Erica set the table without me asking. We sat and ate like a family, talking, laughing. No iPads, no staged tears, no lies hanging in the air. Later that night, I tucked Erica in. She looked up at me, her eyes searching mine. Daddy, she said, are you going to stay forever now? I held her hand. Forever and always, baby girl. Forever and always. And for the first time since I came home from Afghanistan, I actually believed it. But the peace didn't last. The weeks that followed felt like walking through a minefield. Every day brought some new complication, some quiet sabotage. Cynthia and Raymond weren't done. They still had their claws in old paperwork, old connections. I got the first hit when I tried to enroll Erica in the school's aftercare program. The administrator looked up from her screen with a puzzled frown. I'm sorry, Mr. Holloway, but our records show you don't have educational rights. What? I stepped forward. That's impossible. I have primary custody. She turned her monitor toward me. There it was, clear as day. A document filed just days before the emergency hearing. Signed by Monica, removing me from all educational decisions. Jake dug in later. Found out Cynthia had Monica sign dozens of forms in those final weeks. She was trying to lock me out from every angle. It would take months to unwind that paper trail. And while we untangled it, Logan started having nightmares. He'd wake up screaming for his mother. Then, like clockwork, immediately apologize. I'm sorry, Daddy. I didn't mean it. He'd whisper through sobs, as if even wanting comfort from Monica meant he was betraying me. It broke something in me every time. Dr. Patterson worked with him twice a week. Slowly, carefully, unpacking the wreckage his mind had been buried under. One day during a parent consultation, she showed me some of the drawings he'd done during their sessions. Stick figures. Crude, shaky lines. Angry faces labeled Daddy, towering over smaller figures. Always frowning. Sometimes with red markers smudged across the faces. When I asked him about them, she said gently, he shuts down completely. I looked up at her, throat tight. The coaching runs deep, she added. He's been programmed to see you as a threat. It'll take time, Martin. Time to rebuild that trust. Meanwhile, Erica, she was fading in front of me. At the dinner table, she'd just pick at her food. Quiet. Hello. How was school today? I'd ask. Fine. Anything interesting happen? No. The vibrant, talkative little girl I remembered, gone. What had taken her place was a shell. Careful. Guarded. Like she was afraid her words would betray her somehow. 3 weeks into the new arrangement, I got a call that made my blood run cold. It was the school. Erica hadn't shown up for first period. I bolted out the door, panic crashing into me. I called her phone over and over. No answer. It was raining. I drove the neighborhood, checked the school perimeter. Then, there she was, sitting alone at a bus stop. 6 blocks from the school. Her backpack on her lap. Still in her uniform. Just waiting. I pulled over and ran to her. Erica. She didn't flinch. I sat down beside her on the bench, heart pounding. What are you doing here? She stared at the ground. I was going to find Mom. What? Bryce said if I ever needed to escape, I should call him. My stomach twisted. When did Bryce tell you that? Before you came back. He gave me a phone. Said it was our secret. She reached into her backpack and pulled out a cheap flip phone. One I'd never seen before. Later, Jake's investigator traced the phone to a batch bot with stolen credit cards. Bryce. Always a few steps ahead. Grooming my daughter. Planning contingencies. It made my skin crawl. The financial pressure didn't stop, either. Despite winning custody, the wage garnishment never stopped. Monica's lawyer kept filing motions, blaming administrative delays. My take-home pay barely covered groceries. When the truck's transmission started slipping, I didn't have money to fix it. So I walked Erica to school every morning, then caught 2 buses just to get to work. And Cynthia? She found new ways to insert herself into our lives. She'd show up during the kids' lunch period, standing just outside the school's property line, waving at them through the fence. The school couldn't stop her. Technically, she wasn't trespassing. Erica would come home crying, confused. "Grandma says you're keeping her away because you're mean," she told me one evening. "She says she has presents for us, but you won't let her give them." I sat her down, tried to explain. But how do you tell a child that their grandmother is a manipulative criminal? Every explanation made me sound like the bitter one, like I was trying to poison them against family. Raymond went a different route. He started calling my employer. Daily complaints. All anonymous, but we knew. Safety concerns. Accusations. HR documented them all. After the 10th call, my supervisor pulled me aside. "Martin, I know this is personal stuff," he said, "but it's affecting the workplace. The other guards, they don't want to work shifts with you. They're worried about getting caught up in whatever this is." I nodded, holding it in. But the loneliness started to fester. The friends I had before deployment, gone. The months I'd spent living in the truck, the stigma, the whispers, it all added up. Jake was still in my corner. Always. But he had his own practice to run. His own life. At night, when the kids were asleep and the house was finally quiet, that silence pressed him like a weight. And Monica's supervised visits didn't help. She'd show up with Cynthia and Raymond waiting in the parking lot, despite the no-contact order. Denise, the supervisor, tried her best. But every visit was the same. Monica sobbing, clutching the kids. "I'm so sorry," she'd wail. "Mommy made mistakes. Mommy needs you to tell the judge you want to come home." Logan would cry. Erica would freeze. After every visit, it took days to reset. Days to calm the storm. The breakthrough with Logan came when I least expected it. We were at the grocery store. He was trailing behind me, his little sneakers squeaking on the tile. I turned around just in time to see him knock over a display of soup cans. The crash sent him into immediate panic. Logan dove behind my legs like he was under fire, whimpering, "Don't tell Bryce, don't tell Bryce." Something about that terror, it flipped a switch in me. I knelt down next to him, heart pounding as soup cans rolled across the aisle. "Hey," I said gently, helping him pick them up. "You know what? Sometimes loud noises scare me too." He blinked at me, confused. "From when I was in Afghanistan," I explained. "Things would explode without warning. And after a while, even back home, sometimes my brain still thinks I'm there. But it's okay to be scared. And it's okay to make mistakes." Logan stared at me for a long second, like he was trying to decide if he could believe me. Bryce said, "Soldiers don't get scared." I took a breath, steadying myself. Bryce lied, buddy. He lied about a lot of things. That night, Logan padded into my room after bedtime. He didn't say a word, just climbed into my bed, curled against my side, and fell asleep. Progress. Small, quiet moments like that. They were the only markers we had. Erica's walls didn't come down so easily. She tested everything, pushed every boundary, stayed out past curfew, refused to do her homework, snapped back when I asked simple questions. Dr. Patterson called it attachment testing. "She's seeing if you'll leave," she said during one of our consultations. "Because she's been told you would. Every time you don't, every time you stay, you're rewiring that belief." So I stayed. No matter how hard she pushed, how cold she got, I stayed. And eventually, I started to see it. Tiny cracks in the armor. Fleeting moments of softness. Her standing a little closer when we walked to school. Sitting at the table a little longer after dinner. One night, she even laughed at a joke I made. But then came another hit. Jake's investigator uncovered 6 credit cards, opened under my name. Maxed out. Electronics. Jewelry. I recognized some of the items. A bracelet I'd seen on Erica's wrist. A pair of shoes Logan mentioned Bryce buying for her. The realization made my stomach turn. Bryce had used my stolen identity to buy my daughter gifts, while poisoning her against me. Jake pushed ahead with the fraud charges, but Bryce was long gone. Vanished. His last known address was cleaned out. Neighbors said he packed up in the middle of the night. Our investigator found similar reports in other states. Always the same pattern: single mothers, kids, financial ruin. "He's a predator," Jake said, flipping through the folder of reports. "And Cynthia and Raymond brought him into your kids' lives." The school situation worsened. Erica's grades tanked again. Her teacher called me in for a conference. She was doing better, she said, sliding a few essays across the table. But now, I'm concerned. I read the first one. Dark themes. Violence. Confusion about identity. The word family crossed out, rewritten, then scribbled over again. The school counselor recommended intensive therapy, but my insurance wouldn't cover it. I couldn't afford it out of pocket, not with everything else piling up. Then the letter came. Monica had a new attorney. Patterson was gone, probably didn't want to sink with that ship. But this new guy? Young, hungry, vicious. They were challenging the custody order, claiming Monica had been coerced into her confession. Attached were affidavits from Cynthia and Raymond, calling me a master manipulator, accusing me of planting videos, orchestrating everything. I stared at the paperwork, all rising in my throat. This is insane, I told Jake. They're saying I planted the videos. They're desperate, Jake said. The criminal trial's coming up. They have to discredit you before you take the stand. And the pressure, it got to me. Sleep became a luxury. I started making mistakes at work, forgetting to log visitors, missing a patrol. Small stuff, but in security, that adds up. The final straw was the loading dock. I'd failed to secure the door properly during shift turnover. My supervisor called me in. Martin, he said, trying to sound understanding. I've been patient, but this isn't working. I nodded, already knowing what was coming. I'm putting you on administrative leave. Unpaid. You need to sort out your personal situation. Unpaid leave meant no income. My wages were still garnished. My savings already bled dry. Jake offered to help again, another loan, but I couldn't take more from him. Not after everything he'd already done. Pride was all I had left. So I started selling off what I could. My father's watch, the one he gave me before I deployed. Tools from the garage. Odds and ends. Anything to keep the lights on and food on the table. The kids didn't need to know how close we were to the edge. But Erica noticed. She always noticed more than she let on. One night, I was sitting at the kitchen table, bills spread out, calculator in hand, trying to figure out which ones I could push to next month. Erica came in quietly. She stood there for a minute, then pulled out a chair across from me. She looked at the bills, at the look on my face. Are we poor now? She asked. Quietly. We're managing, I said, trying to sound confident. Erica disappeared into her room without a word. A minute later, she came back out holding the gold bracelet, Bryce's gift. She held it out to me, small fingers wrapped around the band. You can sell this, she said quietly. I looked at her, really looked at her, and something in me cracked. This girl who just weeks ago barely spoke to me unless prompted. This girl who'd been coached to fear me, hate me, now offering up something she cherished to help. I pulled her into a hug. This time she didn't stiffen. She didn't flinch. She hugged back, really hugged back, arms tight around my ribs like she was holding on for life. You don't need to sell your things, I said, my voice thick. We're going to be okay. She pulled away slightly, searching my face like she was reading the fine print of a promise. You promise you're not going to leave again? I promise, I said without hesitation, brushing a strand of hair behind her ear. I'm never leaving you and Logan again. Something shifted in her eyes. A flicker of trust, or at least the beginning of it. The next morning shattered the peace. Logan's school called just before 10 a.m. There's been an incident, the secretary said, her voice cautious. When I got there, I found Logan curled up in a plastic chair outside the principal's office. His shirt was torn, his face red and tear-streaked. I dropped to my knees, wrapping my arms around him. What happened, buddy? He said you called people. Logan sobbed into my chest. He said you were a bad soldier. That's what Bryce told his mom. Bryce's poison, still spreading, even in his absence. The principal stood nearby, arms crossed, a crease etched deep between her eyebrows. We have a zero-tolerance policy on physical altercations, she said firmly. Logan will be suspended for 3 days. I nodded, holding my boy closer. Another mark against us in the custody war. That night, Dr. Patterson called an emergency session. Logan sat at the little table in her office, crayon in hand, drawing picture after picture, soldiers with weapons, stick figure families standing apart, one towering figure always looming above the rest, angry eyebrows and frowning mouths. When she gently asked who that was, he froze. Shut down completely. Dr. Patterson looked at me later, hands clasped in her lap. The coaching runs deep, she said. He's still trying to reconcile the image of you as a father with the monster he was taught to fear. I nodded, exhausted. He's just a kid. He shouldn't have to carry this. Meanwhile, Erica had begun withdrawing again, barely eating, speaking in clipped responses. But I kept showing up, packing her lunch, helping with math homework even when she insisted she didn't need help, sitting outside her door at night just in case she wanted to talk. Then came the cards. No return address. Slipped under the door. We miss you. We love you. Presents with shiny wrapping paper, toys Logan had wanted weeks ago, books Erica used to read with Cynthia. They couldn't reach the children directly, but they found ways. And the kids noticed. Erica started taking calls late at night, always hanging up when I entered the room. I checked her call log, numbers always different, always untraceable. Who are you talking to? I asked her one night, gently. Nobody, she said, staring past me. But I knew. Cynthia was using Bryce's old tricks. Burner phones. Half-truths. Emotional warfare. Visits with Monica grew worse by the week. She'd show up disheveled one Saturday, barely speaking, then bounding with energy the next, promising Disney trips and new puppies. Denise, the supervisor, documented everything, But Monica's new attorney spun the chaos into sympathy. She's a mother driven to desperation, the filings said. In reality, Monica had stopped attending therapy after 3 sessions. Claimed she couldn't afford it, even with Cynthia and Raymond still funding every legal attack. Meanwhile, I got a call from the mortgage company. "Mr. Holloway, the payments are delinquent on your second mortgage." "What second mortgage?" I asked. Turned out, Monica had forged my signature months ago. The payments were past due. Foreclosure proceedings were about to begin. Just another fire I couldn't afford to put out. "How is this legal?" I asked Jake as we sat in his office, surrounded by stacks of paperwork. "How can they keep doing this?" "It's not," Jake said. "But proving it, prosecuting it, getting restitution, that takes time. Time they're counting on you not having." And he was right. Every day felt like trying to swim with cinder blocks tied to my chest. Get the kids fed. Get them to school. Ride 2 buses to get to a job interview that disappeared the second they Googled my name. Home again. Homework. Dinner. Pretend like everything was fine. Then sit back down at the kitchen table. More bills. More numbers that didn't add up. One night, I found Erica standing on a step stool, helping Logan pack his lunch. She was 10 years old, already carrying responsibilities that didn't belong to her. Already filling a role no child should have to fill. Later that same night, I walked past Logan's room. The door was cracked open. I stopped. Erica sat cross-legged on the floor next to him, speaking in a low voice. "If anyone asks about Mom," she said, "you say she's sick. Don't talk about Bryce. Don't talk about Grandma and Grandpa. Just say everything is fine." I stepped inside. "Erica, stop," I said softly. She turned, eyes wide. "You don't need to coach him," I told her gently, kneeling down. "He can tell the truth." She looked at me with eyes too old for her face. "The truth doesn't help us, Dad. I learned that already." I couldn't speak. The words lodged somewhere in my throat, choking on grief and guilt. My children, my babies, turned into tools, then weapons, and now, protectors. They were trying to protect me. From what? From the truth? From the court? From pain? From their own family? Their childhood had been buried beneath other people's choices. Ours, theirs, everyone's. No 10-year-old should know how to lie convincingly to a judge. No 5-year-old should have to flinch at a soup can hitting the ground. And yet, here we were. The next court date loomed like a hurricane on the horizon. Monica's new attorney had filed 17 separate motions. 17. Each one a landmine Jake had to carefully step around and respond to. Each one costing hours, thousands of dollars, energy we barely had. Jake barely slept. Neither did I. Every day was a new ambush, a new lie, a new tactic. "They're trying to exhaust us," Jake told me late one night in his office, surrounded by case files, empty coffee cups, and crumpled drafts of motions. "Make it so expensive, so exhausting, that you'll just give in. Shared custody. Reduced support. Some backroom agreement that gets them off the hook before the criminal trial." "I can't," I said quietly, staring down at my hands. "Not after what I've seen. What they've done to the kids." Jake nodded. "Then we keep going." And so we did. Preparing for war with a skeleton crew and an empty wallet. The week before court, everything kicked into overdrive. Raymond was seen speaking to my old supervisor at the security firm, the one who'd already put me on leave. I could imagine the poison in his words, carefully crafted concern about a troubled veteran, while planting the seeds of paranoia. Cynthia hired a private investigator. We caught him outside the kids' school. He wasn't even subtle, camera in hand, snapping photos of me walking Erica to the bus stop, of Logan at recess. Just documenting, waiting for a crack in the armor. The pressure tightened like a noose. Then one morning over breakfast, Logan looked up from his cereal bowl and said, "Dad, I remembered something. About the videos Mommy made." I kept my voice light, even as my pulse kicked up. "Yeah? What do you remember, buddy?" "Grandma had a camera too. A different one. She said it was for insurance." My spoon paused halfway to my mouth. "Insurance?" He nodded, unconcerned, going back to his cereal like it was nothing. Another set of videos. Another angle. Another chance. Jake's investigator jumped on it. But finding them would take time we didn't have. And time wasn't the only thing running out. The power company sent a final notice. 3 days to pay, or the electricity would be shut off. I kept the kids out of it as long as I could, but this couldn't be hidden. I sat them down after dinner, the apartment too quiet, the shadows stretching long across the kitchen floor. "Things are tight right now," I said carefully. "We might have to make some changes. Are we going to be homeless?" Logan asked, voice so small I almost didn't hear it. "No, buddy. I won't let that happen." Erica stared at me. "Is this because of Mom and Grandma and Grandpa?" I took a breath. Adults sometimes make choices that affect everyone. But we're going to get through this. Together. That night, when the house was finally still, I did the thing I swore I never would. I called my brother in Oregon. We hadn't spoken since before deployment. A falling out too old and complicated to dig up now. But he answered. He listened. Said almost nothing. Then, give me your bank account number. The power stayed on. Small victories matter. Logan started sleeping through the night again. Erica rejoined her school's art club. I walked into the living room one afternoon and found her sketching. Just sketching, without looking over her shoulder like someone might catch her. It felt like healing. But the other side wasn't done. 3 days before the hearing, Jake called. Patterson's back. My stomach dropped. Cynthia and Raymond had liquidated more assets. Patterson wasn't alone. He brought a legal team now. Expert witnesses. A jury consultant. They were treating this like a corporate hostile takeover. They're scared, Jake said. If they lose custody definitively, it strengthens the criminal prosecution's case. They're cornered. That makes them dangerous. The very next day, Erica came home from school in tears. She shoved a crumpled flyer into my hands before collapsing on the couch. It was her school photo. Beneath it, in bold red letters, missing, taken from loving family. I stared at it, all rising in my throat. Everyone was staring at me. Erica sobbed. They think you kidnapped us. I wrapped my arms around her, her body trembling in mine. I felt rage surge through me, sharp and bright and uncontainable. Using my children as weapons was one thing. Humiliating them in public, turning their classmates into judges and whisperers, that was another. Jake filed for an emergency restraining order the next morning. But the damage was done. Logan withdrew again. Wouldn't get out of bed the next morning. Wouldn't eat. Wouldn't even speak above a whisper. He was afraid to go to school. Afraid of what people would say. Of what new whispers would swirl around the playground. The progress we'd made over months, gone. Just like that. Vanished like breath in winter. Dr. Patterson called it re-traumatization. She warned me during our emergency check-in. This kind of public exposure, she said gently, undermines safety, trust, identity. It can set us back months. I nodded, jaw tight. I already knew. 2 days before the court hearing, Denise called me, neutral tone, clipped words. Monica's requested an emergency visit, she said. Outside the agreed schedule. Jake advised against it. It's a tactic, he warned. They'll use it to manipulate optics, say you're co-parenting now, and muddy the narrative. Stick to the agreement. But something about it, I don't know. Maybe desperation. Maybe instinct. I said yes. Monica arrived alone. No Cynthia. No Raymond. No perfume cloud or shaky tears. Just Monica, hair tied back, dressed plainly, looking clearer. Not healed, not fixed, but different. She sat across from me, folding her hands in her lap. Denise sat in the corner with her clipboard, pen poised. I want to make a deal, Monica said quietly. I studied her face. No trembling lip. No performative sadness. Just quiet resolve. I'll support your custody, she said. If you drop the criminal charges against my parents. I didn't react. Just breathe through the flare in my gut. I can't drop charges I didn't file. I reminded her. The state is prosecuting them. But your testimony is key. Without it, they might get probation. A fine. Maybe less. I looked at her. Really looked. They hurt our children, Monica. They brought Bryce into their lives. They ruined us financially. They turned Erica and Logan into weapons. They need to face consequences. They're my parents, she whispered, eyes falling. They're all I have left. No, I said, voice low but firm. You have Erica. You have Logan. Focus on being the mother they need. Not the daughter your parents want. She stared at me for a long moment. No argument. No rebuttal. Just stood up and left without another word. But something in her expression, subtle, flickering, gave me the smallest sliver of hope. Maybe underneath all the layers of damage and fear and manipulation, the woman I married still existed. Maybe she was beginning to see the truth. That night, I didn't sleep. I sat at the kitchen table, the only light coming from the laptop screen, reviewing everything Jake had prepared, testimonies, financials, phone logs, recordings. Piece after piece of the puzzle that painted the same picture. Systemic destruction. Deliberate sabotage. It felt like prepping for war. Except this time, the battlefield was a courtroom, and the enemy knew all my soft spots. At dawn, Erica padded in, hair a mess, rubbing sleep from her eyes. She didn't say anything, just climbed into my lap and curled up, small and warm and quiet. Are you scared? She asked. A little, I admitted. Me too. She paused, then whispered, but we're going to win, right? We're going to stay together. I held her close. My arms wrapped around her tightly as I breathed in the strawberry shampoo scent of her hair, trying to anchor myself to this moment. We're going to fight for it, baby. That's all we can do. The sun crept up over the rooftops, casting long streaks of light across the worn kitchen floor. I was ready to fight. The morning of court, Jake called me at 5 a.m. His voice was electric. I got something. Anonymous package. Dropped off at the office overnight. He paused. It's big, Martin. By the time I got to his office, his hands were already shaking from too much coffee and adrenaline. He handed me his laptop. I watched. Cynthia, clear as day, sitting across from Monica at their dining room table. Not just backup videos. These were different. She was coaching Monica, coaching her on how to coach the kids. Layers. And then Bryce appeared, settling beside Cynthia. She slid a thick envelope across the table. 20,000 now, Cynthia said. 40 when Martin loses custody. Just keep playing the loving boyfriend role. Bryce opened the envelope, casually flipping through the bills. What about the kids, he asked. They're getting harder to control. Cynthia didn't even blink. Children are simple. Fear and rewards. Increase both. My hand clenched into a fist. But I kept watching. Had to. Jake filed a motion to submit it immediately. Patterson's team hit back hard, screaming about chain of custody, metadata, authentication, claiming it was deep-faked, forged, inadmissible trash. The judge didn't dismiss it. Instead, he scheduled an emergency review session for that afternoon. I dropped the kids at school like it was any other day, trying to hide the storm behind my eyes. Erica stopped me at the entrance. Today's the big day, isn't it? Just another hearing, sweetheart, I said, forcing a smile. She squeezed my hand. Logan had another nightmare. About Bryce coming back. My jaw tightened. Bryce is never coming back, I said calmly. I promise you. And I meant it. No matter what happened in that courtroom today, I would never let him near them again. The courthouse buzzed with activity. When I walked into the courtroom, they were already there, Cynthia and Raymond, flanked by a fleet of attorneys in dark suits, posturing like generals before a final siege. They sat rigid, masks of confidence stretched tight across their faces. Monica was notably absent. Then Patterson came over, smug as ever, holding a thick folder. Motion to dismiss the new evidence, he said, cool and polished. Anonymous sources have no credibility. I turned to Jake, but he was already ahead of him. We anticipated this, he said, pulling up his tablet. He handed it to the clerk. Inside was security footage from the delivery center. A woman matching Monica's description, hoodie up, dropping off the package. Chain of custody, Jake said. Check the timestamp. Patterson went still. The judge returned minutes later and reviewed everything. The footage, the metadata, the expert affidavits. Jake had rushed through filing. After several agonizing minutes, she spoke. The new videos will be admitted. I watched Cynthia's face drain of color as her own voice echoed across the courtroom. The first video, her seated across from Monica. Remember, honey, Martin is simple-minded. Military men always are. He'll believe whatever you tell him. Say it's for the children's adjustment. Then Raymond, his tone clipped and smug. The key is documentation. Every interaction. Every word. We're building a case from day one. The timestamp? 2 weeks before I returned from deployment. Patterson tried damage control. Context, he argued. Concerned grandparents. Misinterpreted intentions. Then Jake hit play on the Bryce payment video. Cynthia. The envelope. The cash. 20,000 now. 40 when Martin loses custody. Bryce's smirk. The way he counted bills. The judge's jaw tensed. I didn't need a verdict to see which way she was leaning. During lunch break, I found Monica sitting alone in the hallway, hands clasped in her lap. She looked up when I approached, her eyes red-rimmed but steady. I dropped off the USB, she said softly. I couldn't let them win. Not after what they did to our babies. I sat beside her, not too close. Why now? She hesitated, then said, Dr. Patterson showed me Logan drawings. What I'd done to him. What they made me do. Her voice cracked. I found Mom's recordings while going through Dad's old files. She documented everything like she was proud of it. Will you testify? I asked. She nodded, slow but certain. My lawyer dropped me this morning when I told him. But I'm done being their puppet. That afternoon, the courtroom erupted. Monica walked in without representation, went straight to the stand, and spoke directly to the judge. Her voice was quiet at first, then grew stronger with every sentence. She told it all. The control. The isolation. The dependency her parents had crafted with surgical precision. How they'd used the children as weapons. How Bryce was waiting the moment I left for Afghanistan. They said it was our chance to finally get rid of him, she said. They had Bryce ready. The whole plan mapped out. Cynthia lost control. You ungrateful little. The judge slammed her gavel. Mrs. Turner, one more outburst, and you'll be held in contempt. Monica didn't flinch. She kept going. Talked about the payments, the lies, how Bryce turned violent when the kids resisted. How she'd been too scared of her parents to stop it. I failed as a mother, she said, turning to look at me. But I won't fail them anymore. Patterson's cross-examination was limp. Without Cynthia and Raymond's money, his fire was gone. The judge called a recess. Jake and I waited in a cramped conference room, surrounded by boxes of documents, witness statements, forensic breakdowns. My phone buzzed, a message from Erica's school. Panic attack during PE. She was in the nurse's office. I stood up instinctively, ready to go. Jake grabbed my arm. This is it, Martin. The ruling. You can't miss this. My daughter needs me. I snapped. And she needs you to win this case. Jake said, steady. I'll send my assistant to the school. It was the longest hour of my life. When the bailiff called us back in, the judge looked worn out, but resolved. Her voice didn't waver as she began. I've reviewed extensive evidence of systematic parental alienation, financial fraud, and conspiracy to manipulate the family court system. The depth of this scheme is unlike anything I've encountered in 20 years on the bench. She laid it out piece by piece: Cynthia and Raymond's orchestration, Bryce's involvement, Monica's testimony, the coaching videos, the forged financial documents. Then the final blow. Effective immediately, Mr. Holloway retains sole legal and physical custody of the minor children. Mrs. Holloway's supervised visits will continue, pending completion of intensive therapy and parenting classes. Mr. and Mrs. Turner are permanently barred from any contact with the minor children. Cynthia's scream echoed through the courtroom, shrill and ragged, like something tearing loose inside her. You destroyed our family, she shrieked at Monica, her voice cracking with fury. You're dead to us. Dead. Raymond lunged toward me across the aisle, but the bailiffs were faster. They intercepted him mid-charge and dragged both of them out as Cynthia continued to wail, her carefully constructed mask shattered completely in front of everyone. The image they had tried so hard to maintain, wealthy, loving grandparents, just trying to do what was best, collapsed like wet paper in the rain. Monica flinched, but didn't look away. She didn't cower. She stood her ground. The judge continued, her voice calm but absolute. She addressed the financial crimes next. Full restitution, case referred to the district attorney for criminal prosecution. Then came the announcement that federal warrants had been issued for Bryce Morgan, fraud, identity theft. It felt surreal. All the names that had haunted my life for the last year, now spoken aloud under oath, with consequences. Outside the courthouse, I spotted Monica lingering near the exit. She looked smaller now, stripped of all her buffers. No Cynthia. No Raymond. No Bryce. I know I don't deserve forgiveness, she said quietly, her hands clasped in front of her, eyes flickering with guilt, and something else. Hope maybe. But maybe someday, we can co-parent properly. For them. I studied her face, this woman I once thought I knew. For a long time, I said nothing. Then, focus on getting healthy, I told her. That's what they need from you now. She nodded and walked away, no parents to lean on, no manipulator in her ear. For the first time in her life, truly on her own. I raced straight to Erica's school, heart pounding. I found her curled up on the nurse's cot, pale and trembling. She saw me and launched herself into my arms. I thought you weren't coming, she sobbed into my shoulder. I thought the judge would make us go back. Never, baby, I said, kissing the top of her head. It's over. We won. She pulled back, searching my face like she was trying to read the truth in my expression. Really over? No more court. Really over. That night, I sat them both down at the kitchen table and explained the ruling in the simplest, clearest way I could. They were staying with me. They'd see their mom, sometimes, when she was ready, when she was better. The grandparents? They were done. No more letters. No more gifts. No more standing outside the school fence pretending to love while laying traps. Logan crawled into my lap. What about Bryce? Bryce is in trouble with the police, I said. He won't be coming back. Good, Erica said, her voice sharper than I'd ever heard it. I hope he goes to jail forever. The next few weeks passed in a blur of interviews and visits, FBI agents asking about identity theft, state prosecutors piecing together the financial fraud, CPS conducting their final evaluations. Each meeting chipped away at the mountain Cynthia and Raymond had built. Jake's investigator finally tracked Bryce to Nevada, where he was arrested trying to run the same scam on another single mom. The extradition came fast. He was dragged back to face 37 counts: fraud, identity theft, child endangerment. This time, no more games. No more vanishing acts. The financial part took longer, months of legal wrangling, one form at a time. Every fraudulent credit card disputed, every stolen dollar traced. The second mortgage Monica had forged required endless paperwork and hearings, but we clawed our way back from the brink. I never went back to my old job. Raymond's poison had tainted the well there. But a fellow vet heard about what happened and reached out. Offered me a position at a better firm. Better pay. Better hours. Real flexibility. For the first time in a year, the kids got to see me during daylight hours. Dr. Patterson kept working with Logan and Erica. Logan stopped waking up crying. His drawings, once scribbles of monsters and soldiers and broken families, started looking like something a child should be drawing. Trees, animals, smiling faces. Erica's spark returned gradually. Her grades crept upward. She rejoined her school's art club, started talking about an exhibition she wanted to be part of. Healing wasn't a straight line, but it was happening. Monica threw herself into therapy like someone trying to claw out of a grave. And over time, her supervised visits stopped being about crying and apologies. She started showing up for the kids, really showing up. Present, listening, respecting their space in a way she never had before. Cynthia and Raymond's trial became a legend in local legal circles. The evidence was overwhelming. The verdict was unanimous, guilty on all counts. Cynthia got 3 years. Raymond 4. Their assets were liquidated, restitution and legal fees drained them dry. The empire they'd built on manipulation, threats, and deceit? Gone. Reduced to court transcripts and cautionary tales. Bryce pled out, 18 months in exchange for testimony. His confession revealed we hadn't been their first victims, just their most elaborate. 6 months after the ruling, I stood in our kitchen, stirring a pot of spaghetti sauce while Logan set the table without being asked. Erica sat at the counter, chattering about her art class. Something about a big show they were preparing for. She was excited, vibrant. "Whole, Dad," she said during dinner, twirling spaghetti around her fork. "Do you think Mom will ever be normal?" I paused, met her eyes, chose my words carefully. "She's working hard to get better. That's all anyone can do." Erica nodded. "I'm glad she told the truth finally," Logan added quietly from across the table, pushing a meatball into his mouth with his fork. Monica had started sending them letters, filtered through Dr. Patterson. No pressure, no blame, no manipulation, just acknowledgement, just honesty, just hope for the future. The kids weren't ready to respond yet, but they'd kept the letters. That was progress. Tiny, quiet progress, the kind that doesn't make headlines or come with applause, but means everything. That night, after bedtime stories and goodnight kisses, Logan requesting the one about the raccoon with the missing tail again, Erica pretending she was too old for hugs, but still lingering at her door, I stepped out onto the porch with a cup of coffee. The air was cool, the quiet deep. For the first time in, I couldn't even say how long. The silence didn't feel like a threat. No more looking over my shoulder. No more documenting every interaction like evidence for war. No more fighting for my right to be their father. My phone buzzed on the porch railing. A text from Jake. Bryce sentenced. 2 years federal. Probation, restitution after. I stared at the screen for a moment, thumb hovering over the keyboard. Then I set it aside. Justice had come in pieces, not all at once. That was just another piece. Important, yes, but not everything. Tomorrow would bring its own set of challenges. Erica's science project. Logan's reading log. Bills. Therapy. 100 moving parts. The kids still had a long way to go. So did I. My PTSD hadn't vanished just because the courtroom doors had closed. And Monica, she had a mountain of work ahead. But tonight, just tonight, my children were asleep in their own beds, under my roof, safe. I sipped my coffee, watched the porch light draw on the moths. They circled the bulb in that endless, desperate pattern, always chasing something that burned. I thought about that, how easy it was to get caught in cycles, to mistake the flame for something worth dying for. But cycles could be broken. My kids were proof of that. Inside, I crept through the quiet house and checked on them one last time. I didn't need to, but I needed to. Logan sprawled across his bed like he'd fallen from the sky, mouth slightly open, toy soldiers scattered around him like he'd been defending a dream. Erica lay curled up, one hand tucked under her cheek. The stuffed elephant I'd mailed her from Afghanistan nestled tight to her chest. She'd ignored that elephant the first month I came home. Wouldn't even look at it. Now it never left her bed. 18 months to deployment. 6 months to hell. That was nearly 2 years stolen. But we'd found our way back. Not to what we'd had before, that was gone. But to something else. Something real. Built not on fear, or silence, or lies. Built on truth. In the kitchen, I packed lunches. Turkey and cheese for Erica. PB&J, crusts off, for Logan. Signed the field trip forms. Labeled the water bottles. Tasks that once felt burdensome now felt sacred. Like proof I'd made it. The custody papers sat locked in the filing cabinet. Stamped. Notarized. Final. But that wasn't the real victory. The real victory was Logan asking me to coach his soccer team after school. Erica showing me her sketchbook without flinching, without hiding the pages. It was family dinners where we actually talked about dumb cafeteria drama or how Logan thought worms were just baby snakes. It was bedtime stories and morning hugs. All the ordinary things that make a life. The real victory was being their dad. Fully. Completely. Without anyone trying to take that away. I turned off the lights. The house held its breath in stillness. I paused at their doorway one last time, watching them sleep. Safe. Home. Mine. And for the first time since coming home from Afghanistan, that was enough. Dear listeners, please share your thoughts in the comments section below and don't forget to like, share, and subscribe.